right, thank you. Thank you guys so much for coming to my talk. Thank you for waiting patiently as we had technical difficulties. I really appreciate it. So today what we're going to be talking about is high-level understanding essential communication skills for business. So first I'm going to go through why would I be an expert in this? You know, who am I? I have traveled all across the globe as a remote worker. You know, I've worked at TopTal since May, but before then I dabbled in cryptocurrency, and I've been to many other countries, so I've been able to communicate with people of all different walks of life, different ages, and I've even hitchhiked and motorcycled across the US, so just learning from those experiences, when you learn how to communicate in different levels to different people, you can really make your way through life and achieve things that you never thought that you could. In California, I also used to be an actress and some type of a model, so I actually had to learn how to control certain emotions and portray them in ways so that people would really be able to understand the messages that I was trying to tell them. And recently at TopTal, I just became a global leader. So we have community leads in different regions, and since I travel everywhere, I thought I would just apply to be a global leader where I would just host events wherever I traveled, and I got it. So that's definitely an accomplishment that I've had, and my communication skills have gotten me there. All right, so the things that we're going to touch on today are the types of communication, how to use them, and why they're essential. And the different types of communication we're going to talk about today are verbal, nonverbal, and visual. The first one being verbal, oral communication, the most obvious one. And the funny thing is that even though it's the most obvious form, it actually only makes up about 7% of how we communicate. Verbal communication, it depends not only just on your words, but on the pitch, the speed of which you're talking. If I start talking really fast, you may start to feel your heart race. Or the volume, am I shouting or am I whispering? If you whisper, it changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. Your body language also plays a drastic part. Apparently 75% of how we communicate is our body language, as well as gestures or signals. Everybody globally can tell, they can discern body language and hand signals, so that's why 75% of how we communicate is just through these dynamics. The second type of verbal communication is written, so the medium that you use for this is books, brochures, articles, blog posts. When you're applying for jobs, it's going to be your resumes, it's going to be your online profiles. How do you write in emails? These are all verbal forms of communication. And then you have your nonverbal. I really love this picture. Can anybody discern anything from what this guy is doing? You know, maybe he looks a little frustrated. Some may say, like, constipated. He's definitely not looking like he's having a good day. And you can read all of that when he's not saying anything at all, and that's the power of that type of communication. You know, what message are you displaying to the world that you may not even be aware of? And then we have other nonverbal forms of communication, just the pure aesthetics. So how you're dressing, the symbols that you may wear. Perhaps you're wearing like a religious cross necklace, or you know, you're dressed in business versus dressed in sweatpants or jeans. Those different types of looks send off their own messages and communications. And then we have visual. Just pure visual is in the form of things like art, paintings, drawings. This is just an example of some street art that is a representation of visual communication. All right, so putting all of this information into use, first you have to understand your audience. If you're going to communicate properly, you have to kind of assess who they are. So when you're a developer, in the ever-expanding world of tech, the disparity between those who know and those who don't know is just vastly increasing. So who here has ever tried to explain something to someone and they're just like glass-eyed? Either you've gone too far, they just don't understand you, and you're like, oh my God, you just start mumbling because you feel like you've already lost them in the conversation. That's pretty much happened to all of us. So assessing who your audience is going to be paramount to getting your idea across. So one of the things you have to assess is, are they an expert versus a non-expert? And you can really avoid miscommunication by assessing this. And this is where I like to bring in the 30,000-foot overview, okay? So usually when we're an expert in something, we tend to dive a little too deep for the other person to understand. If you assess that this person isn't an expert, you can give just a very brief 30,000-foot overview. Leave room for the person to be able to ask questions about what they're curious about. This works for if you're interviewing for a job, or you're talking to a friend or a family member who maybe doesn't understand what you're talking about or what your job is about. I've had to explain TopTal to my family from the Midwest of the US, and they're not technical out there at all, trust me, and trying to explain what a freelance network is to farmers is not easy. So I can guarantee you, if you learn how to assess your audience and give them the 30,000-foot overview and let them just ask questions about it, it helps them understand more because they're also asking what they're interested about instead of you just adding too much salt and seasoning to the dish. You know, it's just like seasoning. You can always add more, but just start off with less. So then when you are, let's say, in an interview or you're speaking with someone, what exactly is that person looking for? Are they looking for more of a partner versus a service provider? You know, what does the client actually want? If they're looking for a partner, then you can communicate a job that you've done that maybe you did for free, but you worked side by side with someone for over a year, you know, really diving deep into what it meant, something like that. But you get that way by assessing what the person actually wants and needs versus someone who just wants a service provider, someone who just wants someone to get the job done fast, someone who just wants you to deliver. Then you can communicate a project where you're like, I listened to this direction, bam, 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 it was done, it was perfect. And they're like, okay, great, you're hired. But you need to learn how to communicate that correctly in order to be accepted for that position. And then there's interpersonal versus business. Sometimes we overshare. I'm definitely an oversharer at times. You need to learn how to draw the line between someone who's a friend and someone who you're looking at for a professional future. There's definitely a good way you can build rapport, but still keep it professional. You know, think about if I wanted this person to recommend me for a future job, am I saying the correct things or am I portraying myself in the correct light? And here's just some tips. We're going to go into how to nail an interview, how to have the proper communication, whether you're having an interview in person or whether you're having a remote interview. So for an in-person interview, there's a few things that are probably pretty obvious. You're going to want to dress appropriately for the role. So really study actually what that person is like, because when you mirror someone, people buy from people they like, know, and trust. Well, people also hire people they like, know, and trust. So if you're mirroring the type of job that you want, so if you're applying for a professional job, you're going to obviously want to dress professionally. But if you're applying as a construction worker, maybe you're not going to want to wear a business suit to that interview. It just makes sense. You know, have a strong handshake, look that person in the eye, and be on time. When you send that type of communication, so I'm walking into an interview and I'm like this, hi, how are you? My name's Elise and I'm here to get the job done, versus, you know, totally different air. You're slouching, you're sitting there kind of not confident in who you are. There's two different messages between this and this. You know, have that power stance, and you're going to be this much farther ahead of the competition. I promise you. Some body language tips. So exactly what I just said. Shoulders back, sit up straight, use hand gestures, and smile. And honestly, you can say, like I said before, body language makes up 75% of your communication. You can be saying whatever words that you want. I mean, not really. Don't say whatever words you want. Don't just be like, la, 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 because then you're not going to get hired like that, you know? But, speak about what the topic is, but make sure you're using hand gestures. Make sure you're fully involved in there. And that'll make you more connected in the moment, and it'll show the presence that you'll have in future meetings. And then perfecting the remote interview. So as tech expands, a lot of jobs are becoming remote, which means you don't have to go into the office. And that's actually what TopTal is. So all of my interviews were on the phone or via Skype. Some of them were video, but some of them were actually on the phone. And even though you're not in person in those, it just means that you really have to be able to communicate through your tone, through your volume, through exactly what you're saying. But doing this, you still have to prepare like a normal interview. Dress like you're gonna go to the in-person interview. Smile while you're talking. When you actually smile while you're talking, it sounds like that through your tone of voice as opposed to, yeah, I really want this job, it's gonna be good for me, or yeah, I really want this job, it's gonna be great for me. There's two different forms of communication, and one's gonna set you apart from the other guy that they're interviewing. Another part of nailing an interview is your CV and your portfolio. So make sure it's organized, it has good grammar, and it has your personal touch on there. I don't want to say that these are becoming less and less important, because they're still very important, but Google has taught everybody how to perfect everything. So in order to differentiate yours amongst the crowd and sea of CVs and portfolios, cater it to what the client is actually looking for. Make your written communication mirror the exact skills that they are looking for. Be genuine and be honest about what you've done, but when you nail down what they're actually looking for, it's going to make yours stand out from the rest. And then make sure your public profile is on point, because your public profile is like your public resume. And it's honestly becoming more and more important today than ever before. People will hunt through LinkedIn to find you. People will hunt through Facebook. They'll look, and they're looking. And I'm sure some of you have stalked someone on Facebook or LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever your social network is, to find out who this person is. So you're gonna wanna make sure that your social profile is tip-top, up to shape. This is a really good example of a professional network. And if you don't have a professional profile and you're looking for a job, or you're trying to represent yourself in a professional way, this is definitely something that you're gonna wanna have and gonna wanna get, because it shows your skills. It shows the things that you've done in the past, and it shows exactly what you're looking for. This guy, he nailed it. Look it, he's got his header with the shaking hands, the people in the back showing success. He's got his degree on there. He says exactly what he is, his location. Recruiters look at this and they see, a professional. They see someone they want on their team. Make your public profile communicate that image that you want to display to the world. So I've got some bonus communication skills here. So if you really want to walk into an interview, walk into a date, walk into something where you just want to kill it, find common ground with that person. Do you have familiar friends? Do you like the same sports? Anything that you can connect on will establish the foundation for your future with that person. As I said earlier, people buy from people they like, know, and trust. And a lot of people, they think of sales as, like snake oil. But the thing is, your whole life is sales. Everything I'm teaching you right now is all sales. How you communicate is selling yourself, and your life is a commission. So you have to think about these things in every aspect of life. And these are the things that are really going to get you hired for jobs. They're the things that are going to get you that first date. They're the things that, are going to get you ahead of the pack. When you communicate that you're here, you're ready to take on the job, that you're, you want to succeed, that's the aura that you're going to give off, and that's what people will know and trust. So one of the last things that I want to put out here is to ask questions. The interviews aren't just for the person to sit there and analyze you. This is for you to see who your future employer, who your future friend, who your future spouse is going to be. Make sure that you're a mutual fit, especially on terms of communication. a lot of times when someone's interviewing us for a job, we assume that they know what they're looking for. Sometimes we're very wrong. Sometimes they don't know what they're talking about, especially in a world of tech. Maybe you have someone who says, yeah, I'm looking for someone who can build Facebook with $2,000. I need you to do this for me now. And that's when your responsibility comes in to say, okay, have you ever done a project like this before? What is your actual budget like? Do you even know what you're talking about, essentially? You can avoid disputes, you can avoid miscommunications, and you can avoid potholes by asking your own questions, This is for you to find out if it's a mutual fit, so don't just think that that person is there to interview you as well. You can avoid so many things by just making sure that you are the owner of the conversation just as much as they are. So obviously, a lot of the benefits of communicating clearly, it ensures that your topic is understood. We have a lot of interesting things that go on in our lives. We have a lot of interesting things that go into our projects. But if we are not able to communicate the project clearly, then they're not going to understand why, if there's so many developers now, if there's so many designers now, why choose us? You don't want to be the 15th person that they've seen that day, and they're just bored out of their mind. Honestly, you're two different situations, right? So see it from the other person's point of view. That person needs something, and you need to be the person to fulfill it. So make sure you can communicate that properly. Don't overwhelm them. Don't confuse them. See if you can find out what they need to know, what they want to know, and if you can deliver the topic properly. And when you can do this and communicate properly, it adds flavor to your stories. I use a lot of hand gestures. I'm not Italian at all, but this is the thing that I do. So it just adds flavor. Add the spice. Don't be like a boring biscuit. Be like chocolate chip instead of vanilla, So that's what I say. You can, it makes things more interesting. So then even if the topic that you're talking about maybe isn't so great, if you have enthusiasm about it, you can enrapture people in that story. You could literally talk about anything. So if I was talking about a napkin, if someone's like, yeah, this is a napkin, it's made from organic fiber, and it's really great, you should use it. Or if I was like, this napkin came from the depths of the rainforest at once, and we recycled all of the plastic bottles, saving the ocean, and now you have a chance to be part of saving the world as well. That's adding flavor to a story. That's communicating in a way that gets somebody interested in what you have to offer. You have to be able to sell yourself and make yourself different from the other people. So if you have a topic that's about code, and the other person doesn't know really what the heck the code is, they're not understanding it, be able to portray that in a story that excites you. You're obviously doing your job for a reason because you love it. So put that emotion into the topic that you're talking about. All right, so just to kind of sum it all up, have a great attitude about anything that you're going to talk about or going to do, because it's going to show more than anything that you're actually saying. Build rapport with your client, with your customer, with your friend, with your family. I hope you already have rapport with your family, but maybe not, so I don't know. Build rapport with them too. It's always good to keep that up. And then ask questions. Make sure you find out what they want to know, what they're going to know, or what they need to know, so that you can tell your story in a way that makes sense to them. All right, that's kind of the end. This is my social media. I don't know what social media you guys are on. Maybe you can go on and judge me for how I'm communicating myself on there. I'd love any feedback. And then if you want to hook up on LinkedIn, this is my QR code. But yeah, thank you guys for coming today. Does anybody have any questions or want to go over anything?
Question here in Slido. And first question is, do you think, what kind of animal would you want to be and why?
What kind of animal?
Animal, yeah. Yeah, because you
Well, that's a random question.
You are very energy. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what kind of animal that people have described me as. One time someone described me either as a platypus or as a pterodactyl, and I don't know if either of those make sense at all, because they're I feel like a made up, the most random creature, but I don't know, maybe a unicorn. What? What animal? The question was.
What kind of animal would you want to be and why? Like.
Oh, it's not the full question?
It's a good interview question. Yeah, it's a. This one, yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you think what kind of animal would you want to be and why is a good interview question? Who are you interviewing? Are you interviewing for the circus? It depends. Like, if you're the interviewer, you can honestly ask whatever you want, but it just depends on the reason why you're asking it, right? But if you're the interviewer, if you're hiring someone, if you're just going to be like a client of someone, probably not the best thing to ask them just because it's very random. They won't know why you're asking it, and it has nothing to do with the topic at hand unless, you're going to work for like a pet shop or something. Like that's when it would make sense. But if you're working for like a tech company and you're like, what animal would you want to be and why? I'm going to say you're probably not going to get hired. That's just my words of wisdom. I'm pretty sure I didn't ask anything like that in my interview, so yes and no.
So the next question is, do you have to change the CV for each company that you are applying? What if you are applying to a bunch of companies?
If you want the serious answer, then it's yes. I'd say edit for every company that you're applying to. Before I got TopTal, I applied to about 50 different remote jobs. I worked really hard to try to find a remote job because I really wanted one. Guys, if you want something bad enough, then yes. But if you're applying to a bunch of companies, then maybe you want to reassess why you're applying to so many companies. Do you actually have a target for where you want to work? Do you actually have a goal in mind, or are you just trying to find a job? So if they're kind of like similar and you're just trying to find a job, maybe, but catering it towards that job is gonna help get you the job way more than just leaving it as a template, because people can tell. If they read it, they can tell.
Another question, any tips, exercises to improve verbal and non-verbal communication?
Any tips or exercises? Yeah, you can practice with friends. So I know a lot of us hate criticism, but constructive criticism can be really good, guys. And you can actually kind of assess from how your life is kind of going already. Like, I think about this like in the dating world, right? So like, this is gonna sound so harsh, but like if you get rejected a lot, or maybe you get a lot of dates, you're doing something either wrong or something either right. And you can kind of get feedback from those scenarios, kind of reassess what you're doing. Are you going into something with a negative mindset or a positive mindset? Are you going into something with confidence or not confidence? Usually we underestimate ourselves, and that's why we lose out a lot on situations. So practice with a friend, or watch YouTube videos, watch shows of people who you really want to be like, who you emulate. What are they doing? And then do those things, and your skills will change drastically. You can also message me too, and I'll help. I'll just tear apart your communication, and we can go from there. Like, we can improve it.
And the next question,
Oh.
If you are speaking passionately about a napkin, perhaps this could come across as a fake. How can I navigate the fine line between enthusiastic and disingenuous?
Okay, this is a really good question. So a part of being communicative, and getting what you want, is being genuine, right? So you want to make sure that you're genuine about what you're talking about, because people can tell if you're fake. So if you're speaking about yourself, I hope that you're not being disingenuous about the job that you're doing or the product that you're selling, because then maybe you're not in the right line of work, or maybe you're not, portraying yourself properly, because the only time that we're disingenuous is when we don't feel like we believe in it 100%. For me, I drink the TopTal Kool-Aid. I love my job. It's been able to give me the freedom that I want and that I need, and I will tell anybody who wants to work at TopTal to work here, because I love it, and it's given me so many opportunities, and I'm not being disingenuous about that at all, and I don't care if people believe me or not, because when you are genuine about something that you love, when you really believe in who you are and what you do, that's going to come across. So if you're having to speak about something that you don't really like, you can be become a good actor, you can work on that, or you can try to move into a line of work that really fulfills you and really makes you feel like you can be genuine about it.
So that's all here. Do you have any
You have a question?
question?
Can you bring him the mic?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
I want to ask something about money.
Money, okay.
Yeah,
That's everyone's favorite topic.
Yeah, that's
Who likes
why.
money? I like money. This is a good tool.
Is it good or bad to talk on an interview about money? I mean, kind of, on an interview, everyone at the end asks you, do you have any question for us? If on the interview wasn't mentioned the money part, let's say the salary, is it good to ask for it or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, you always have the right to ask, what is the compensation going to be for this position? And that's a totally appropriate question. And that's exactly where communication skills come in, right? Because you want to walk in and be like, all right, how much are you going to pay me for this? Because that's a way different communication. It sends a way different message than someone who says, yeah, so can you tell me a little bit more about the compensation of this position? Because that's totally fair, we're providing a service, we want to be compensated fairly. And then you can negotiate that way. So as long as you're professional about it, and then also assessing their communication. If you're building rapport, having a really good conversation. Also, when you put these skills to the test, when you really have good communication skills, you can do things like raise the salary that you're getting. You can negotiate better for those things because when you're building rapport, having a good time, you're gonna be more willing to give someone a raise to someone you really like as opposed to someone who just came in there and demands more, Because being communicative and giving rapport and being happy, that's giving an extra service on top of the skills that you provide. So working with people or being with people, it's not just a job that you're doing, your presence is there and your presence accounts for a lot of the work that you do. Nobody wants to work with someone who is sullen or angry or doesn't like, people. When you bring that energy to the team, be able to get everybody else motivated or just be able to really deliver good work, that says a lot more about the future and how you work than, anything else does, just having good skills or whatnot. So having the good communication skills will get you hired above other people who just have good skills.
So have you got another question?
You have another question?
Two?
Oh, excellent.
It's still on the same topic. Kind of the last 5 years, it has been a trend that on an interview, they ask you, how much do you want to get paid for this? So what will be the right answer and what will be the right answer to get paid as much as possible? Because, you're afraid to say that I want this because you may think that or I'm setting it too much and I will not get hired, or
Right.
I'm setting it too low because the company will pay much more.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, that it just kind of depends. Sometimes you just really have to assess how the conversation is going, and you can never go wrong with putting some humor in there, just like making something into kind of a joke, like, well, obviously I want to get paid as much as possible, but I was thinking a fair rate is this, or what do you think? Or like, I wanted to assess what your fair rate is and then go based upon that because I really enjoy the company. Saying things like that will help you get paid more. Obviously, you don't want to get scammed for, the value that you provide, but, assess what is fair for you. You don't want to say like, oh, pay me $1 million an hour because obviously you're not going to get hired, but see what's fair, see what you value yourself and your work and your time as, and if you portray yourself as that, as delivering, as, overpromise, overdeliver, then that's something that you can negotiate for and you can win. So I don't know, did I answer your question? Yeah. Okay, excellent.
So we still have 8 minutes, so anybody has
Anybody have any
question?
other questions? Oh, excellent. Yes?
Where? Yeah.
Thank you for your insights. They were very, very useful.
Thanks.
My question is back to the compensation. At which level during the interview do you find is the most appropriate to talk about the compensation? So is it after you've been fully accepted and then they're sending you the terms? Is that when you start talking? Or is it during the process? Or at which point do you think is best?
I think you definitely talk about compensation before signing any kind of terms, because then you're just going into a black hole. You don't really know what you're getting yourself into. So yeah, if you're in an interview process, definitely talk about compensation near the end of that conversation. Like you said, when they say, do you have any more questions? But figure out if it's a mutual fit before you sign anything. You know, because you don't want to be screwed over, and you also want to make sure it's fair, and then see what the gateways are, you know, so maybe it's a lower compensation at that moment, but look at things as, are there opportunities for growth? Do they have really good benefits? Is this a place where I can grow really quickly, you know? Like in my line of work, there are so many opportunities to expand, like doing things like I'm doing today. This I'm not being paid for, but I get so much value out of being able to come here and speak. So like, thank you guys for coming, because you're actually like making my dreams come true. So like, thank you guys. I feel like I'm at the Golden Globes right now. But anyway, so yeah, definitely like near the end of an interview, but before anything is signed and done with. Do not do that before you know compensation. Thank you.
So next question, anybody? No? So thanks, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.